Hi there, I'm the Mythkeeper. Welcome back to my channel, the best place on the internet for Pathfinder lore and history. If you like this kind of content, be sure to like and subscribe. And if there's anything you'd like to know about in particular, let me know in the comments below. This week I'm looking at the southern successor states, which includes Po Li, Tang Mai, and Zahui. These are all interesting and slightly different countries that were all at one point conquered by either Yixing, Shu, or Lunghua. They all have slightly different heritage, and they're all kind of unique in their own right. This should be a fun video. Enjoy. In this week's Region Deep Dive, we're going back to Tian Xia, and we're looking at the three southernmost successor states of the Empire of Lunghua. All three of these nations have deep histories that trace back their nation to the various empires of Tian Xia's past, Lunghua, Shu, and Yixing. Zahui, the southernmost of these, was effectively founded by the daughter of the old emperor of Yixing, who was also a dragon herself, and her name was Pham Ton Nguyen, and she went on to create a legacy of dragon rulership in that land that endures to this day. Tang Mai, the middle country, was established when 5 sorceresses of incredible power negotiated for their independence from the old empire of Shu. And finally, Po Li, where the old empire of Yixing once emerged, now today believes their nation will be where the eternal emperor will return to power and once again unify Tian Xia under a single rule. As some of this history has now been recounted in a few videos, I will once again move through my history section fairly quickly, just highlighting the key events relevant to this region. The Empire of Yixing, Year 1 to 5576. In Year 1, the Empire of Yixing's founder, Empress Su, was born. Her adopted heir, General Aolin, succeeded her and declared himself emperor in the year 88. In 250, the sky dragon herald Shinonome confronted Aolin, revealed him to be a dragon, and demanded he cede power to humanity. Aolin refused. In 444, the Battle of the Bloodsworn, a coalition of Yaoguai and Qlipoth forces ambushed Aolin and his dragon siblings, leading to the death of his sea dragon brother and the self-sacrifice of his forest dragon sister. The rest of his siblings also abandoned him, and Aolin became increasingly distanced. His mate would soon leave him, and not too long after this, so too would his daughter. In 513, 3 years after Emperor Aolin was setting his sights on a collection of warring provincial kingdoms located southeast of his empire, Aolin's daughter re-emerged. According to the people of Zahui, under the threat of collective conquest, they banded together to petition her for protection, promising loyalty and a hoard of treasure for her aid. She took the name Pham Ton Nguyen and became the protector of Zahui. And once Zahui was claimed by his daughter, Emperor Aolin left the nation in peace, unwilling to confront her for its territories. With Pham Ton Nguyen and later her descendants as their protectors, Zahui would come to be ruled by a succession of imperial dragons, a situation which remains true even to this day. In 1503, the Ivory Accord united the Naga kingdoms into the Empire of Nagajor and secured its borders from predation by imperialistic Yixing. In 2105, a vast army of clockwork constructs emerged from the clicking caverns of Pan Majang, besieging both Nagajor and Zahui. Not only were the possessed constructs themselves hardy and difficult to destroy, but the clockwork lords who led them were gifted necromancers, raising vast armies of the living dead to bolster the size and scale of their forces. The constructs may well have conquered Zahui if Emperor Aolin had not come with an army from Yixing to defend the forces of his grandson, who 1500 years after the ascension of Aolin's daughter now ruled Zahui. By 2802, the rapid growth of the Teikoku shogunate did not go unnoticed by Lord Aolin and his puppet empress, Empress Yin. Finally, after almost 1,500 years after he had agreed to allow his daughter independent rule over Zahui, Lord Aolin's Empire of Yixing also laid claim to that land as well, absorbing the kingdom that was now being run by his great-grandchild. His descendant dared not resist his claim to the land. In 5164, after 300 years of planning, a Samsaran investigator named Pu Duo and his allies put a long-planned scheme into action. They incapacitated Aolin and imprisoned him in a secret extraplanar location. In 5576, with Aolin gone, Yixing crumbled into warring states. Its legacy was erased by the Silk Network to prevent any revival of its rule. While other countries would later succumb to rule by the empires of Shu and Lunghua, Zahui would hereafter uniquely remain independent. The Empire of Shu, 5601 to 6536. In 5601, Zhao Dangshu, a military leader from the former Yixing capital, unified central Tian Xia, establishing the Empire of Shu with a new capital at Heiming. In 5723, 5 sisters, each of whom was a powerful sorcerer, but each who drew their power from a different source, presented themselves at court to Emperor Shu to petition for independence from the empire.
Emperor Shu agreed to their terms, and the nation of Tang Mai separated from the Empire of Shu. In 5786, Emperor Shu died at the age of 222, leaving behind numerous heirs but no clear succession plan, leading to increased instability. In the following 7 centuries, the Empire of Shu remained politically unstable, with frequent internal strife, provincial revolts, and a divided nobility. In the middle of this period, in 6387, political turmoil also rocked the new kingdom of Tang Mai. Their system of rule by 5 great families, successor families descended from the famous 5 sisters, which had created stable governance for 600 years, faced its greatest challenge when the Sudachan family attempted a coup against the other 4 houses. This ultimately resulted in their banishment from leadership positions for 15 generations. This would trigger a wave of problems, and over time the noble family's prominence gradually diminished due to internal conflicts and growing commoner discontent. In 6536, the Empire of Shu collapsed, breaking into multiple warring states, including the independent trade city of Goka. The Empire of Lunghua, 6642 to 7106. In 6642, Wen Wuzhen, a warlord from the Lunghua province, conquered 10 of the 16 former Shu kingdoms, founding the Empire of Lunghua with its capital at Ziwu. From 6751 to 6767, an army of Isoki, or rat folk, from the Darklands kingdom of Digwo Dashu conquered more than a dozen cities in this part of the Lunghua Empire. Eventually they would come to be contained by Lunghua's formidable armies. Trouble with Digwo Dashu persisted for 15 years until finally the famous sorceress Hao Jin transported the ratfolk army and a spherical section of the surrounding underground depths up to about 10 miles in diameter into her famous demiplanar tapestry. This pacified the region but displaced the ratfolk to a private demiplane. The excavated ground became known as the Old Rat's Stolen Heart. From 6802 to 6804, Lunghua annexed Baquan, renaming it the province of Penhua, and then it later annexed Huangot as it continued its expansion. From 6980 to 6987, Lunghua attempted to conquer Tang Mai. Although they would eventually succeed, this was a Pyrrhic victory, in many ways ending in disaster as it did indirectly result in the emperor's death. The grueling 7-Year War did eventually lead to the conquest of Tang Mai by the close of the year 6987, but it was enormously costly for both sides. In 6989, the capital of Lunghua was moved from Ziwu to Chengdu, the historic seat of Yixing, and construction began on the colossal Eternal Emperor statue. In 7010, in one of the last major regional events before the death of prophecy, the Dragon Emperor Fan De Quan succeeded his father as the new Dragon Emperor of Zahui, the 13th in an unbroken line of Dragon Emperors. Still today, 500 years after this date, Emperor Fan De Quan is the current ruler of Zahui. The collapse of Lunghua, 7106 to the present. In 7106, the death of prophecy led to widespread chaos, the breakdown of divination magic, and the fall of major nations across Galarian. In Tian Xia, the Lunghua royal family was assassinated, and the empire collapsed into competing successor states. As soon as the death of prophecy occurred, the formerly independent state of Tang Mai was quick to reassert its independence. The 5 seats remained, but it was not the lineage of the sorceresses that reclaimed power here. This has created a national schism. Those loyal to the old noble families seek a way to return them to the 5 seats, while the Commonwealth factions oppose them at nearly every step, and argue that even if they had once served the nation well, they have long since lost the power of their old magic. From 7107 to 7113, more successor states emerged. Shenmen fell to the Jorogumo, Kaoling was conquered by hobgoblins, the Elder Kraken Zanagor seized Wanshu, and Oni took over Chuye. From 7113 to 7126, new emergent human kingdoms would establish firm boundaries for themselves. These included the nations of Goka, Tang Mai, Baquan, and Huangot and its peripheries. In its heartland, however, 3 nations emerged, Quain, Lingshen, and Po Li. It said that the 3 successor states of the heartland began to split based on broad factional alliances. The traditionalists came to settle in Quain, while the militarists ended up in Lingshen and the religious faction in Po Li. These are now the largest of the successor states and still have a broadly antagonistic relationship to each other based on these original factional divides. For more detail on Quain and Lingshen, see my Central Successor States video. Meanwhile, in Po Li, a religious faction took power. Occupying the former imperial capital of Chengdu, the people of Po Li devoted themselves to faith in the reincarnation of the eternal emperor of Lunghua through the guidance and leadership of a governing oracular council, which proclaims to see the future despite the death of prophecy. In 7199 there was a significant volcanic eruption in Tang Mai, when the long-dormant volcano Fa Yim came back to life. Between the devastation of the volcano and the difficult war with Lung Hua, many call for Tang Mai to recede into full isolation. Others argue for Tang Mai to create stronger ties and allies with the outside world. In 7208, the clockwork horrors of the clicking caverns of Panmajang returned to threaten Zahoy once again. So far, the Dragon Emperor Fan Duquan and the people of Zahoy have managed to resist the return of their ancient Darklands foes. In 7219, the sorceress Hao Jin returned to Galarian. After she did so, she sought to undo some of the more disruptive uses of her colossal power. One of these was that Hao Jin returned the spherical mound to Galarian, above the site of the old rat's stolen heart in modern-day southwestern Poli. Although ripped from the Darklands originally, that old sinkhole had largely collapsed, and so the stolen heart became an above-ground mountain, appearing like a great and perfect sphere. The locals now call this the Round Mountain. Finally, in 7222, King Huang Shixin died, or so it appeared. In fact, he survived his death, as described in my recent Central Successor States video, and he is now positioning himself to be viewed as the next eternal emperor. By the following year, rumors of this had reached Poli, and some members of the Oracular Council, worried that these rumors might be founded, attempted to fast-track one of their own candidates. This poor fool was electrocuted by the sky dragon Shen Ra, who confirmed this was not a viable candidate. The Oracular Council continues its search. This brings us to today. Now let's take a closer look at each of the southern successor states in turn. Poli, land of the waiting throne. Poli has stood as a living testament to the fallen Lung Hua Empire since the death of prophecy. Its landscape tells a story of dramatic contrasts, from the stone-ridden northern shores along the Sea of Ghosts to the mysterious Changliao jungle that dominates nearly half the country. The southern reaches of Poli transform into the fertile Polian plains, where seasonal flooding creates ideal conditions for rice cultivation. A network of well-maintained roads connects the former imperial capital of Chengdu, by far the most important settlement in the nation, to surrounding hamlets and farms, ensuring food security and creating the foundation for a society poised to reclaim its former glory. Despite experiencing humid rainstorms during warmer months, and the occasional frigid winters as well, Poli maintains an agricultural prosperity that sustains its population and cultural ambitions. Following Imperial Lung Hua's collapse more than a century ago, Poli emerged as a successor state determined to preserve imperial traditions under the guidance of the enigmatic Oracular Council, a governing body of diviners and politicians who faithfully await the Eternal Emperor's next reincarnation. The Council evaluates children presented by hopeful parents, occasionally identifying those with divine signs, who are then trained in the mysterious path of numbers. These selected individuals may eventually join the Council or become secret defenders of the state, furthering the Oracle's undisclosed agenda. Meanwhile, a jeweled throne remains perpetually empty in the Council chambers, reserved for the as-yet undetermined true imperial heir. Poli is in fact not the only nation that believes in the Eternal Emperor's inevitable return. In fact, much of Poli's economy thrives on religious tourism, and even just secular tourism, as Chengdu was for a long time the seat of power across all of central Tian Xia. They protect a host of ancient and venerable artifacts, as well as some simulacrums too. The Oracular Council has been accused of practicing a curious form of hypocrisy here, severely punishing distributors of counterfeit relics while displaying many imitations of their own in their own museums. Yet tourism has dwindled in the last 20 years. In truth, as years have passed, the nation has grown increasingly isolated from neighboring successor states as they become increasingly devout and dogmatic. The Oracular Council now prohibits worship outside devotion to the Eternal Emperor within the imperial city. Despite this, Polian citizens maintain the comforts of pre-collapse life and generally offer hospitality to the pilgrims and visitors who come seeking glimpses of the imperial splendor preserved in the region's intact infrastructure and its religious traditions. Daily life in Poli follows traditional patterns, largely unchanged since imperial times. Farmers rise before dawn to tend to livestock, fishers cast nets out along the northern rivers, and priests travel out from Chengdu to share the words of the council with the rural parts of the country, often accompanied by musicians and performers. A midday bell signals prayer time when all work ceases, followed by a customary 2-hour rest period. Children spend half their days learning vocational skills and half studying spiritual teachings about the Eternal Emperor. Evening family meals begin and end with prayers for the Emperor's return. Their calendar revolves around religious celebrations and agricultural cycles. New Year festivities feature religious parades and the burning of paper talismans to symbolically center the Eternal Emperor's wandering spirit. The springtime Festival of Fireflies honors the Emperor's cycle of birth, death, and rebirth through the release of guided lanterns on water or into the air. Summer concludes with a 3-week Festival of Heaven's Tears, when oracles emerge from meditation to predict optimal harvest times, while cities host cultural performances. The Autumn Dragon Temple Festival sends an entourage of scholars, priests, and oracles on a month-long tour, where hopeful parents present children as potential reincarnations of the Emperor. The culture of Po Li. At the heart of Po Li society lies their religious orthodoxy and their unwavering devotion to the Eternal Emperor, creating a pervasive and uniquely monotheistic culture that touches every aspect of daily life. Po Li also positions itself as the guardian of Lunghua's imperial legacy, with citizens and leaders alike viewing themselves as cultural preservationists, awaiting the Eternal Emperor's reincarnation. Educational institutions promote this identity by teaching a glorified version of Po Li's significance in terms of their imperial history alongside religious doctrines. Throughout the nation, scrolls, iconography, and small altars dedicated to the Eternal Emperor adorn households, businesses, and government buildings alike. This omnipresent religious influence shapes social structures, governance, and personal identity. As a theocracy, governance flows from divine scriptures, prophecies, and historical imperial wisdom. Oracular judgment stands as absolute and final. The Oracular Council issues spiritual declarations that guide the populace. State-appointed functionaries manage temples and shrines across settlements. These include blue-robed oracles and red-robed agents who provide familiar divine services for both citizens and foreign visitors. These priests maintain sacred sites while embodying the state's religious authority. Religious pluralism finds no sanctuary in Po Li. Worship of other faiths constitutes a criminal offense, particularly in Chengdu, where the secretive Lapis Watchers, Po Li's covert police force, vigilantly monitor and arrest violators. Similarly, unauthorized magical practices frequently result in penalties or imprisonment. The production and trade of divine relics represents one of Po Li's most significant economic activities. Gifted oracles craft powerful protective items, fortune-bringing charms, and luck-swaying trinkets highly valued throughout Tian Xia. This lucrative market inevitably attracts counterfeiters despite severe religious penalties, creating a perpetual cycle of forgery, discovery, and punishment. Though lacking extensive military forces, Po Li maintains sovereignty through the mysterious Lapis Watchers, who infiltrate various sectors of society to monitor potential threats and execute the agendas of their high-ranking oracles. Social stratification in Po Li manifests visibly through distinctive dress codes, particularly among the ruling classes who maintain imperial Lunghua traditions. Oracles wear blue robes, with elaborate stitched imagery indicating rank and station. Their servants don yellow or dark green robes, with identifying sashes denoting specific functions. Non-magical agents of the council appear in red robes, while educators wear distinctive red and black garments. This visual hierarchy reinforces the theocratic power structure that has preserved Po Li's cultural continuity, despite the broader empire's collapse over a century ago. The government of Po Li. The Oracular Council serves as the central governing authority of Po Li, ruling from the former imperial capital of Chengdu. This theocratic body combines religious authority and political power through a complex numerological divination system called the Path of Numbers. Council members extract prophetic insights and wisdom to guide policy decisions while maintaining their primary mission, identifying the reincarnated Eternal Emperor who will eventually reclaim the Five-Dragon Throne, named of course for Ao Lin and his 4 dragon siblings that once ruled the old empire of Yixing. Now it's been over 100 years since the death of prophecy, and many now suspect that in truth the council shows no inclination to relinquish power. They of course continue to defend their continued rule as a necessary vigilance against false imperial claimants. The government operates through a 2-tiered structure. The lower Oracular Council handles day-to-day governance and logistics, comprised of lesser oracles, secular lords, bureaucrats, and politicians. The High Oracular Council consists of 5 ministers who direct Po Li's cultural preservation efforts and political agendas. Supporting this leadership structure is the Bureau of Numerology, an extensive network of operatives and agents organized into 5 specialized branches: the secretive Lapis Watchers, who handle internal security; the Chalcedony Syndicate, oracles providing religious services; the Ivory Guards, who serve local law enforcement needs; the Malachite Battalion, which is the military force of the nation, and the elite Jade Warriors, who are an imperial-era organization dedicated to protecting the city of Chengdu beyond even the Oracular Council's authority, as the emperor himself founded them over 300 years ago. Important government figures include Zhao Meng. The Grand Oracle of the High Oracular Council effectively serves as the regent of the country. This astute elderly man is methodically focused on maintaining Po Li's sovereignty and strength while awaiting the emperor's return. Critics believe he has held power for so long because of political ambition and a desire for power. In fact, Meng is a true believer, utterly convinced he will be the one to usher in the next eternal emperor. Shen Ra. Though not technically a part of the official government of Po Li, it is impossible to discuss the cult of the Eternal Emperor without mention of Shen Ra. This is a sky dragon sage that maintains an inextricable connection to the Po Li historical legacy and its supposedly destined future. Shen Ra has occasionally served as an advisor to Zhao Meng, and most recently came down to Chengdu to kill an unworthy would-be emperor. Zhuge Shuang Ying. The Minister of Internal Affairs and Director of the Lapis Watchers is second in overall authority to the Grand Oracle within Po Li. Ying was discovered as an orphan and inducted into the Bureau of Numerology. Ying has transformed internal security operations during her 15-year tenure, inspiring new recruits while frequently clashing with the Minister of Faith. Wang Jing. The Minister of Faith who maintains Po Li's religious traditions and heritage. This bombastic, charismatic figure leads prayers and sermons during major holidays, displaying narcissistic tendencies and intolerance towards religious dissent. Jing and the previous Minister of Internal Affairs had organized the eradication of reportedly heretical dissidents for national security, a bloody act which many still fear and remember. Shi Yinling, Minister of Truth, overseeing education and historical preservation. This studious official combats the persistent problem of forgeries and false religious items while supervising the sacred archives located in the city of Tuotuo, which remains accessible only to high-ranking officials. And Aoyung Fong, the Overseer of Prophecy. A younger figure in the council, this optimistic oracle oversees hundreds of prophecies and mysteries connected to the path of numbers. Deeply devoted to identifying signs of the emperor's reincarnation, Fong has recently grown concerned about rumors from Ling Shen and potential connections to an impending solar eclipse. There is substance to these rumors, as described in my recent Central Successor States video. Emperor Huang Xixin of Lingshan did not die as the official records indicated. Instead, he has been forged into an undying construct, and now Emperor Huang seeks to position himself to match some of the key indicators of the prophecies of the Eternal Emperor's return, so as to win the loyalty of the faithful when he re-emerges. This includes revealing that he survived during an upcoming and auspicious solar eclipse. The Po Li Gazetteer. Chengdu, the imperial city. Originally the capital of the old empire and now home to nearly 250,000 inhabitants, Chengdu functions as Po Li's center of temporal and spiritual authority. The administrative apparatus consists predominantly of oracles and their thousands of attendants who disseminate directives throughout the nation. Chengdu's structure reflects strict social stratification. The innermost district operates as a self-contained urban environment, accessible exclusively to the Oracular Council, their relatives, and their servants. This restricted zone is encircled by elegant residences and pavilions, belonging to secular officials and administrators. Beyond these elite quarters lies a vibrant metropolitan area, populated by traders, workers, miscreants, and indigents. The imperial city boasts remarkable attractions, particularly the Eternal Emperor statue and the five-dragon throne. The Eternal Emperor statue. This immense monument has remained in perpetual construction for over 3 centuries, with each subsequent generation elevating the elaborate structure approximately 10 stories higher than Chengdu's walls. In recent decades, Po Lian citizens have developed the belief that the Eternal Emperor will return in physical form only after the statue's face is completed and his mortal visage revealed. While more cynical residents harbor concerns that this precarious height of the monument suggests a conspiracy to demolish the imperial court during the crucial moment of the emperor's eventual installation ceremony. The Five-Dragon Throne. An impressive seat crafted from jade, ivory, chalcedony, lapis lazuli, and malachite stands vacant during every assembly of the Oracular Council. This is the legendary Five-Dragon Throne. Despite tales claiming the artifact can manipulate weather patterns and summon a mighty sky dragon, none venture to occupy the imperial seat. Indeed, the rumor that the throne can be used to commune with the sky dragon is not entirely false, for the dragon Shenra does live in the Curtain of Clouds, a magical floating keep hidden in the clouds above the capital. The Curtain of Clouds. Dwelling in a secret magical hold above Po Li's undulating cloud canopy is Shenra. As described, this powerful dragon has served as the vigilant guardian of the five-dragon throne. Predictably, numerous aspiring emperors have proclaimed their legitimacy throughout history, yet each pretender has been systematically reduced to ash by Shenra's intervention. Apparently, the most recent incident involved a faction within the Oracular Council with a calculated strategy to circumvent the dragon's judgment and establish their selected candidate, motivated by disturbing reports suggesting the Eternal Emperor's re-emergence had occurred within the rival nation of Ling Shen. Their machinations proved futile, however, as council members helplessly witnessed their puppet ruler disintegrate instantaneously in a brilliant flash of radiance no sooner was he set on the throne. Jitai and Yu Ming. Following the capital in significance, these two rank as Po Li's largest urban centers. Their respective populations approach 25,000 and 40,000 residents, and both cities facilitate substantial commerce with rural regions and adjacent nations. Tuo Tuo, the enlightened city. Located in southwestern Po Li, Tuo Tuo overlooks the Nagajor border from atop a plateau divided into 3 zones, mirroring the imperial city's structure. While Chengdo serves as Po Li's administrative nucleus, Tuo Tuo functions as the nation's historical and educational foundation. Its innermost sector houses several ornate golden repositories designated as the Sacred Archives. These contain collections of prophecies and manuscripts from previous high-ranking oracles, complemented by an extensive astronomical observatory. The Emperor's Footprint. This massive depression serves as a pilgrimage destination infrequently visited due to numerous lethal creatures and antagonistic Sun Tzu Godai who inhabit the Changliao jungle depths. Oracles who endure the expedition to the footprint discover a verdant sanctuary surrounded by suspended vines and pristine cascades. Meditative practices in this tranquil location allegedly connect pilgrims directly to the celestial will. Folklore also references a distinctive purple blossom that flowers once every 144 years, with accounts of its capabilities ranging from enchantment to resurrection, depending on the narrative's moral lesson. Another legend identifies the Emperor's Footprint as the location where the Eternal Emperor transformed into a powerful dragon, engaged in combat, perished, and was subsequently revived. The Round Mountain. About 6 years ago, after Hao Jin returned to the world, she returned the stolen sphere of the Darklands to Po Li. Although originally ripped from the Darklands, that old sinkhole, the Stolen Rat's Heart, as it had been called, had largely collapsed, and so the Stolen Heart became an above-ground mountain, appearing like a great and perfect sphere. The locals now call this the Round Mountain. The Round Mountain is almost entirely populated by Isoki, descended from the rat folk of militaristic Digwo Dashu. Though, after their experience with Hao Jin, these Isoki have abandoned their warlike ways and are in fact a largely pacifist society. The Round Mountain has been at the center of a lot of Tian Xia political intrigue of late, particularly as it concerns the growing influence of the Lantern Lodge, the Tian Xia branch of the Pathfinder Society. The way to the mountain caused significant damage to another Isoki realm called the Big Ticker. These Isoki were displaced to a cave system near the Nagajor capital of Zom Kulan called the Second Ticker. The Isoki of the Second Ticker and the Round Mountain have been building new trade tunnels between their realms. Though the two new Isoki kingdoms have attracted a good deal of attention and intrigue, supplies and old trade routes that relied on the old lands of the Big Ticker were destroyed, and so the Ratfolk have sought continued aid from Hao Jin and the Pathfinder Society to rebuild. In the meantime, Empress Gu Shiya, the current ruler of the Greater Darklands Empire of Digwu Dashu, has also sent scouting agents to the surface to further investigate these distant relatives of theirs, hoping to eventually reintegrate them into the Kingdom of the Rat. Many of the details of these events can be found in the first edition Pathfinder Society Season 10 adventure Countdown to Round Mountain, as well as the second edition Rats of the Round Mountain campaign arc. The latter adventure featured Pathfinders entering into the Round Mountain before it was returned to Golarion and helping the High Druid Krella assert control over the Isoki of the Round Mountain after they had been conquered by a Rakshasa, posing as an Isoki and going by the moniker Duria, the Undying Empress. Presumably Krella, described as a silver-furred Isoki with brown patches, is still in command of the Isoki of the Round Mountain. Tang Mai, Kingdom of the Five Sisters. In ancient times, much like the central successor states, the lands that would become Tang Mai were rapidly folded into the empire of Yixing by the immense power of the Dragon Emperor. However, they were always an ethnically distinct people. The majority of the people of the central successor states, including the people of Po Li, of Quane, and of Ling Shen, are Shu people, but the people of Tang Mai were always the Tang people, and they even have their own language of the same name. Of generally slender build and tan skin, the people of Tang Mai always hoped for independence from the Shu lands of the north. Tang Mai history finally deviates from the central states during the Shu period. At that time, 5 noble sisters approached the Shu emperor, reportedly a longtime friend, and successfully negotiated their people's independence. Each sister received her own region to govern, and they established the rotating position of the Kamratan, who would sit upon the powerful cinnamon throne for 5-year terms, ensuring no single faction could establish a tyrannical rule. This system faced its greatest challenge 600 years after their independence, when the Sudachan family attempted a coup against the other 4 houses, resulting in their banishment from leadership positions for 15 generations. Tang Mai would lose its independence during the bloody 7 Years' War. They were among the last of the great independent states to fall to the Empire of Lunghua, and they therefore had a relatively small occupation period, which lasted from 6987 to 7106, less than 20 years in all. Barely a generation lived under Lunghua rule, and yet the brutality of that conflict has left an indelible mark on the psyche of the Tang Mai people, with the scars of occupation visible in both landscape and society. Then, in the wake of Lunghua's collapse, Tang Mai quickly returned to its old identity, emerging as a distinctive successor state characterized by its magical prowess and unique geography. At the kingdom's heart lies an impressive network of rivers, canals, waterways, and aqueducts that serve as highways connecting virtually all settlements, including the 4 regional capitals. This intricate aquatic infrastructure stands as testament to Tang Mai's considerable magical knowledge and engineering expertise. However, not all of the landscape reflects this prosperity. Rice fields throughout the nation occupy the flooded remains of forests clear-cut by imperial edict during the Lunghua occupation. Many citizens also blame the empire for the devastating reawakening of Fa Yim, the long-dormant volcano, in 7199, citing the empire's unbalancing influence on the region's natural harmony as the likely cause. Tang Mai is a warmer successor state, experiencing only 2 seasons, the monsoon season and the dry season. Though its southern regions retain cooler temperatures than the north, Tang Mai's landscape is also dominated by the sprawling Sikiu Forest, a mysterious rainforest that features prominently in Tian songs, where adventurers seeking fortune often meet their demise among lost temples. Contemporary Tang Mai stands at a crossroads, its politics as volatile as the recently reawakened volcano that looms above the capital city of Surat Prakan. While isolationists advocate withdrawal from international affairs, others push for stronger diplomatic ties with neighboring nations. Simultaneously, loyalists to the old noble families seek restoration of aristocratic rule, facing fierce opposition from the Commonwealth factions, who claim the nobility lost their magical potency. Behind these public debates, the current Kamratan quietly pursues the creation of powerful new relics to establish Tang Mai's prominence and secure its future, no longer satisfied with seeking to restore ancient temple artifacts or recover older magical innovations. Whatever path emerges, Tang Mai is poised for substantial change in the very near future. The culture of Tang Mai. As Po Li's culture is defined by their religion, Tang Mai's culture is defined by their connection to magic. Magic, arcane magic specifically, has always lied at the heart of Tang Mai, shaping its land, society, and history. Founded by 5 sorcerer sisters who pledged to rule together, Tang Mai has been governed by a magocracy ever since. The land itself brims with magical flora, and magic is woven into nearly every aspect of daily life. Education emphasizes magical training from an early age, with schools that teach both magical theory and practical spellcraft. Gifted students are often sponsored by noble houses to attend one of the many universities, culminating in a required original discovery or innovation upon graduation. Those who distinguish themselves may even ascend towards one of the 5 ruling seats, ensuring that Tang Mai's leadership is continually refreshed with new magical talent. Religion is obviously present in Tang Mai as well, but is unstructured and is often deeply rooted in reverence for the spirits of the land and of the ancestors. Gods are honored as powerful spirits as well, but offerings to local spirits and ancestors are often considered more important. Every town centers around a jaiban, or community center, often marked by a sacred Yangna tree grown from a cutting linked back to the capital. Priests, while few, serve vital roles in maintaining the Jaiban and assisting worshippers with rites, prayers, and blessings, ensuring the health of both the land and the people. Spiritual devotion blends seamlessly into daily life, further intertwining magic, nature, and tradition. Cultural resilience defines Tang Mai, bolstered by a blend of native Tang traditions and strong influences from Shu immigrants who arrived during the Lunghua occupation. Fashion is adapted to the tropical heat, favoring loose sarongs, short haircuts with shaved sides, and breezy Fabiang wraps across the chest. Fabrics often feature vivid paintings of magical plants as acts of devotion, while simpler, undyed clothes are worn by scholars and laborers alike. Cuisine is fresh, spicy, and health-focused. Curries, noodles, and sweet rices are staples, and they often incorporate magical herbs that cool the body, promote health, and slow aging. Many foreigners have observed that Tang chefs create food a little bit like alchemy. Despite the recent adversity they have faced, the Tang people thrive as a proud, innovative, and welcoming culture where magic, community, and tradition are inseparable. The government of Tang Mai. Tang Mai's government operates as a union of 5 semi-autonomous regions, each ruled by a Chao Phraya, who oversees their respective territories while also participating in national governance. These rulers are powerful sorcerers, expected to stay intimately aware of both local and national affairs. Above them sits the Kamratan, who holds the cinnamon throne and serves as the highest authority in the nation. The Kamratan is chosen every 5 years through a secretive process conducted by the Chao Phraya in the catacombs beneath Surat Prakan. No one can serve consecutive terms, and each seat must have a turn before a former Kamratan can be selected again. Despite the rotating leadership, the capital always remains in Surat Prakan. Seats are typically held for life, though exceptions have occurred. While originally restricted to the descendants of the 5 founding sisters, the ruling class has broadened in modern times, and anyone with sufficient magical power can ascend to the position of regional Chao Phraya or serve as Kamratan. In Tang Mai, political power is inseparable from magical power. Only the most accomplished magic users can hold political office, and the dominant factions are those descended from these ancient magical bloodlines. These factions influence everything from trade policy to magical innovation, while lesser lineages form additional political and social clubs. Below the Chao Phraya, hereditary leaders govern smaller cities and towns. In many rural areas, priests also often serve as the guiding figures of community leadership, blending spiritual and civic duties. Kamratan Kemkang. The current Kamratan and ruler of Surat Prakan is Kemkang, a headstrong and pragmatic leader. He is also an extraordinarily powerful sorcerer of a draconic lineage. His reign has been notably focused on expanding education, promoting wider school access, and advancing research into the divine. A staunch opponent of noble elitism, he believes that exclusivity leads to stagnation and pushes for a more equitable future. He is therefore naturally opposed by the great houses and the country's traditionalist factions. He is not the only Commonwealth Kamratan to have held power since the Lunghua collapse, a state of affairs that the great houses are not particularly pleased with. Chao Phraya Pacharan. The ruler of Uthong, Pacharan is a master illusionist of imperial lineage and is well known for their isolationist views. They frequently clash with the Kamratan over the exclusivity of Tang Mai's universities. They also advocate for a stronger military presence to prepare for potential future conflicts, a stance with growing popularity. As many worry about expansionist Ling Shen, or what should happen if Po Li should ever find a suitable eternal emperor, or even whether they too may be threatened by the clockwork armies of Pen Majang in the south. The common people fear another great war will arrive on their doorstep again any day now, and that once again the magic of the sorcerers won't be sufficient to protect them. Chao Phraya Surya. Surya is a lively and charismatic figure, often responsible for brokering peace between feuding leaders. His arcane lineage comes from a powerful group of outsiders called the Psychopomps, connected with a boneyard. He has a talent for business, but many worry about his more shady dealings, specifically about where his true loyalties lie, whether to Tang Mai or his own fortune. Chao Phraya Duang Kamol. Ruler of Haoburi, Duang Kamol is a Fey bloodline sorceress and one of the few members of the old nobility on the council. Despite her old noble blood, she is a popular and progressive figure who champions the rights of non-magical citizens. She campaigns to broaden university curricula to include a broader range of non-magical studies. However, she is not as open-minded on all issues. She remains deeply skeptical of religious influence, especially of the cult of the Eternal Emperor, and would like to see any such influence in Tang Mai stamped out. This has made her vocally concerned about Shu influence in the country in general. Chaupraya Phiyapon. Ruler of the Adidaya province, Phiyapon stands as the first religious leader among the Chaupraya. They seek to guide Tang Mai into greater devotion to the gods, often clashing ideologically with Duang Kamal. Their appointment marks a significant shift towards the integration of faith more fully into political life. It should be noted that though Phiyapon is a quite devout follower of the gods of the celestial court and is deeply connected to the way of spirits, they are still a powerful sorcerer, like all the other members of the council, possessed of an old draconic lineage. The Tang Mai Gazetteer. Surat Prakan. Surat Prakan, the shining capital of Tang Mai, with about 100,000 residents, nestles in the foothills of the northern Chunlun Mountains, frighteningly close to Mount Fa Yim. Its pink and white towers, topped with gold, spiral upwards like blooming lotus flowers. The city's architecture clearly reflects the unique Tian Tang architectural style, with sweeping upturned roofs adorned with dragons and nagas, with both administrative and residential buildings featuring these motifs. Even after the recent eruption of Mount Fa Yim, Surat Prakan remains largely untouched, shielded by the skillful magic of Tang Mai's most accomplished sorcerers. Of particular significance within the capital is Indraracha University, standing as the most prestigious university in Tang Mai and renowned for producing many of the nation's finest magic users. The institute houses an unparalleled archive of sorceress bloodlines, maintaining hundreds of detailed records and thousands of pages documenting potential talent, tests, and magical advancements for those wishing to deepen their understanding of their heritage. Indraracha was also recently discussed in my faction guide to magical schools and colleges, and as mentioned in that video, a student of the school, an alchemist named Thanom, attended this year's International Convocation of Schools hosted in the Inner Sea region. Fa Yim, situated fewer than 10 miles from the capital, this volcano erupted dramatically just over 20 years ago. It did significant damage to the surrounding land and countryside, although as mentioned, the capital itself was largely shielded from most of the damage. Many believe the eruption was a consequence of how the Shu occupiers from Lunghua had mistreated the environment. It hasn't erupted again since, but it does continuously emit a thin stream of smoke from its smoldering crater. The Sikiu Rainforest. This vast jungle dominates the interior of Tang Mai, a lush and fragrant wilderness prized for its rare birds, exotic plants, and valuable alchemical resources. Travel is mainly by ancient rivers and canals, built by long-gone sorcerer lords, connecting small rural hamlets that answer to provincial sorcerer lords. Beyond these settlements, the dense jungle hides the ruins of forgotten temples, sometimes marked with strange, shifting pictograms that resist magical interpretation. These ruins, alongside the promise of rare plants and untold treasures, lure adventurers here. Yet the rainforest remains perilous, not least because of the secret Maimas, a reclusive coven of witches said to dwell deep within its untamed heart. Uthong. While Tang Mai officially maintains no standing army, Uthong tells a different story. Home to a key seat among the 5 major political factions, Uthong functions as the nation's unofficial military center. It is also the nation's second largest city, with about 30,000 residents. Though the Cinnamon Throne resides in Surat Prakan, the real strength of Tang Mai's martial forces can be found here. This unofficial army has sparked growing unease, with critics warning of its creeping influence and rising abuses of power. While the Chaupraya have so far tolerated its existence, discontent is steadily mounting within Tang Mai's broader populace. Thap Samut. The northernmost and largest port city of Tang Mai, Thap Samut has about 25,000 people and has risen swiftly in wealth and influence. Its clean, modern architecture and bustling, accessible harbors have turned it into a magnet for fortune seekers. Here, the newly wealthy rise and fall with dizzying speed, leading to Thap Samut's nickname, the Little Capital. The title has been used to reflect both admiration for its booming economy, as well as occasionally as criticism for its unchecked ambition and social volatility. Huaburi. The third major regional capital, Huaburi, has about 20,000 residents. Its location here is approximated because it has never appeared on the official Paizo map. Adidya, the last major regional capital, Adidya has about 20,000 residents, and its location here has also been approximated for the same reason. Zahoi, the Empire of the Dragon. A land of stark contrasts and vivid beauty, Zahoi stretches across a landscape where jagged black mountains rise like sentinels over a dense but vibrant jungle. Beneath these peaks, countless rivers weave and wind through the valleys, creating the largest and most intricate river delta in all of Tian Xia. Mastery of these waterways has long been essential for survival. Trekking overland through the marshes and mountains is treacherous at best, made all the more perilous by the region's dangerous wildlife. The people of Zahui are ethnically distinct from the Shu people of Po Li and from the Tang people of Tang Mai. The local humans here are called the Dan people, or the Tian Dan. Most of the Tian Dan make their lives along these critical aforementioned rivers, building homes and settlements that rise above the waters and traveling by boat along them. Sometimes these rivers vanish into deep sinkholes and caverns of the subterranean clicking caverns, merging with underground waterways carved by underground lava flows before making their final journey back to the coast. Zahoi's coastline is as rugged as it is breathtaking. Though settlements are only sporadically scattered across the shoreline here, the nation's countless estuaries and coves, broken by sheer-faced islands and black sand beaches, make it one of the continent's most stunning seascapes. Inland, the scattered coastal peaks tighten into clustered ranges that eventually merge into the towering Chunlun Mountains. Beneath both the mountains and jungles sprawls a labyrinthine network of caves and tunnels, some formed by nature, others carved out by ancient peoples and the Darkland's denizens. Though some upper tunnels have been reclaimed by the Zahoi government as hidden outposts, the deeper reaches remain perilous and untamed, a world apart, lurking beneath the Empire's proud surface. Snowless, high-wind winters in the valleys bookend the beginning and end of the year. Spring brings high tides, typhoons, and cyclones that persist all the way through the summer. Heavy rains carry through fall as the primary harvest season begins, and the heavy precipitation throughout the year, combined with the high average temperatures, makes for a very humid climate. This weather is quite unwelcoming to outsiders, and a defense against them on many occasions, but it provides the perfect conditions for the nation's lush jungles and marshes. For over 6 millennia, Zahoi has endured while many others have faltered, a nation tempered by time like a stone worn smooth by river currents. Unique among the kingdoms of Tian Xia, in Zahoi, an imperial dragon has been seated at its throne since the empire's founding. Once a fractured land of warring provinces, Zahoi unified when its leaders petitioned the sovereign dragon Pham Ton Wen for protection, pledging eternal loyalty in exchange for stability and strength. Thus began the unbroken dynasty that still rules to this day. At present, Emperor Pham Duc Quan, the 13th in the dragon's line, has reigned for over 2 centuries, a symbol of continuity and majesty. Under his stewardship, Zahoi has prospered, extending aid and forging enduring ties with neighboring nations, even during the tumultuous fall of Longhua. Though Zahoi has remained largely free of major wars, threats still loom. The mechanical horrors of the clicking caverns, the monstrous kaiju of the Valashmai jungle, and rising revolutionary factions within its own borders. Even the most polished stone, after all, may shatter if struck just right. The culture of Zahoi. Zahoi's culture is deeply shaped by its devotions to tradition, martial pride, and the enduring legacy of its sovereign dragons. Dragon blood sorcerers are particularly common here, where dragons move openly, living among the humans they have sworn to protect. Human dragon blood sorcerers claim their draconic traits flourish more strongly within Zahoi than anywhere else, although of course the sorcerers of neighboring Tang Mai would dispute this claim. Regardless, sorcerers here are also revered as both protectors and civic leaders. Even those without a direct connection to the dragons feel pride in the nation. Being of service, whether through military, civil, or spiritual means, is expected of all citizens, and voluntary military service is viewed as the highest expression of loyalty. Youths here undergo an intense citizenship ritual as they come of age, swearing fealty before the spirit of the first empress, and beginning a life shaped by duty, itinerancy, and strong national identity. Most people of Zahoi grew up traveling the breadth of their homeland, deepening their connection to its many regions and peoples. The rhythm of life in Zahoi follows the rivers, with every citizen expected to master the waterways. Communities traditionally craft cutters for their youth as they reach adulthood, and river travel is seen as essential to both livelihood and personal growth. Even well-recognized foreigners know to follow the rivers. One famous Nagaji dancing troupe, known across Zahoi and beyond as Odyssey, is well loved by the people. While famous for their mesmerizing performances, rumors also persist that this troupe may serve as spies for foreign powers. The nation's tropical climate also heavily influences daily life, from the lightweight, colorful clothing worn to combat the humidity to the intricate headscarves, tattoos, and scarifications that mark status and personal history. In art, emphasis is placed on intricacy. Lacquerwork, embossed hide, and statuary dominate, filling shrines and temples dedicated to beloved gods and honored sovereigns. A love of competition and community celebration also pulses through Zahoi's traditions, most notably in the famed Dragon Boat Festival. Each summer, 12 elite crews race across the nation's waterways, vying for the ultimate prize, a favor from the Emperor himself. These grueling contests are feats of endurance, strategy, and fierce pride, supported by a network of communities and celebrated with rolling festivals that mark the racers' journey from east to west. The Dragon Boat Festival, like so many aspects of Zahoyan life, ties the people to the rivers, to their sovereigns, and to one another with unbreakable bonds. The Government of Zahoy. In Zahoy, dragons rule in both spirit and fact. In fact, the official government language of the nation is Draconic, and though common tongues like Tian, Nagaji, and Tang are widely spoken, all formal proceedings and documents remain in the language of the dragons. The legal system, by design of Empress Nguyen, and upheld by each sovereign since, is terse and intentionally vague, allowing for policy flexibility instead of rigid traditionalism. The reigning Emperor Pham Duc Quan's authority is absolute, but the governance is carried out with the help of an extensive court of hand-picked officials, ranging from military commanders and diplomats to village headmen. Every bearer of the imperial dragon seal is personally selected, their worth judged solely by the sovereign's wisdom, beyond the scrutiny of ordinary citizens. Although imperial propaganda insists that Zahoyan emperors never die, merely abdicating in secret ceremonies, many of the nation's people secretly know the truth, that the dragons are long-lived but not immortal. Regardless, loyalty to the sovereign remain unwavering for most. However, some movements, like the People's Reformation Order, have begun to stir, calling for a shift from direct monarchy to a republic, guided by dragon advisors rather than direct rulers. Key figures in Zahoy's government include Emperor Pham Duc Quan, the sovereign dragon ruler of Zahoy, famed for his devotion and personal connection to every citizen. Chosen through a secret succession ceremony, he embodies the enduring spirit of the nation. Supreme Commander Pham Le Ngoc. Eldest sibling of the Emperor, Pham Le Ngoc leads Zahoy's military forces. Renowned for his exuberant lifestyle and love of food and drink, he remains a masterful and disciplined commander. Niu Tanyen, former premier and close advisor to the emperor, now the leader of the People's Reformation Order. He advocates for transforming Zahoy into a constitutional republic while maintaining dragons as symbolic sovereigns. Lam Andao. A final perspective comes from Lam Andao, even more extreme than the PRO. She is an ancient ascetic mystic who claims to have achieved immortality and enlightenment, and she leads a growing movement critical of both organized religion and the imperial state, with radical offshoots that have been accused of subversive attacks. The Zahoy Gazetteer. Nyon Hoa. Perched at the confluence of the Shung and Banchui rivers, Nyon Hoa is Zahoy's magnificent capital city, a marvel of architecture and engineering. 150,000 people live here. The city's sprawling structure seems to float above the waters, supported by stilts and intricate suspended bridges. The buildings are narrow, deep, and towering, arranged in dense clusters, with canals and zip lines serving as the primary means of transportation. The city's design allows its residents to live entirely without ever touching the ground, if they so choose, making it a striking symbol of Zahoy's engineering prowess and reverence for waterborne life. The city's hundreds of bridges and linking towers create a truly unique topography. The Clicking Caverns. The Clicking Caverns are an eerie network of underground tunnels that extend beneath the border between Zahoy and Nagajor, linking to the mysterious darklands of Tian Xia. The largest breach into these caverns are located in the border with Nagajor. These caverns are infamous for being home to dangerous flesh-eating clockwork constructs, haunted by the restless souls of their long-extinct creators. Every winter these constructs emerge from the depths, launching attacks on the surface, which often also destabilize the ground around their entry points. Over the past 2 decades, the increasing incursions have worsened the situation, causing tensions between Zahoy and Nagajor as they each struggle to defend their territories from the growing threat below. Fort Hung. An extraordinary city carved into the ceiling of a reclaimed channel within the Clicking Caverns, resembling an artificial stalactite formation. The architecture retains the traditional Zahoyan style, but with strange distortions influenced by the haunting presence of the undead builders. Over time, the fort has expanded with new structures, adapting to its use as a forward operating base in Zahoy's long-standing subterranean war. Though the front lines have since shifted, the fort remains active, occupied now by merchants and opportunists offering their services to adventurers and explorers seeking fortune in the underground realms below. Ship's Right. A recent and ambitious engineering project born from an imperial commission to expand Zahoy's naval fleet located off the coast. Designed to counter the threat of pirates along the coast and in the archipelago, it represents a shift from the nation's traditional river-based sloops to larger, more formidable ocean-going vessels. The project involved linking a dozen mountain islands with bridges and scaffolding, transforming them into one of the largest shipyards in all of Tian Xia. This remarkable feat of engineering stands as a testament to Zahoi's growing maritime ambitions and its drive to secure its coastal and island territories. Other smaller settlements in Zahoi include Maitian with 100,000 people, Anson with 40,000 people, Da Miem with also 40,000 people, and Honrach with about 20,000 people.